Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Adobe Video Community Meetup for February. I'm Erica Schisler, and I'm the product manager for Adobe Character Animator. So what is the Adobe Video Community? It's anybody using Premiere Pro, After Effects, Audition, Character Animator, or any number of other products to create all kinds of content. And these events feature product demos and conversations and Q&A with product teams, but they also spotlight exciting projects and creative workflows from the community. This virtual event is part of a monthly series that streams live the last Wednesday of the month on our YouTube and Facebook channels. And new this year, I'm really excited to announce each quarter we'll have a meetup that's focused on animation. And today is the first meetup on animation. And we're going to really focus on Character Animator. And it's pretty new software compared to our friends After Effects and Premiere. But almost right from the beginning, we started seeing users creating music videos. So I thought it'd be great to feature some of those amazing artists and talk about their music video projects. So we're going to be talking to Konee Rok, Seth Zeichner, and Jim Tews. But first, I should mention that one of the challenges in creating a program like this is that the various algorithms on Facebook and YouTube are going to flag any music videos that we play and take them down. They'll just assume that we don't have the rights. So while we won't be playing the videos themselves, we'll be watching work and talking about it. In the chat, we'll be posting links to the various videos and websites where you can watch the full-length videos. And speaking of the chat pod, feel free to post your comments and questions in the chat pod. The amazing Dave Warner, also known as OK Samurai, is monitoring the chat and answering questions. And if your colleagues or your friends or aspiring animators or your favorite bands aren't able to join today, the program will be available on replay shortly after the live stream, and all the past streams are there too. For those of you that aren't familiar with Character Animator, it's an Emmy Award-winning real-time animation system with automatic lip sync and face tracking. First, you create 2D characters in Photoshop or Illustrator, or you can use the new Puppet Maker. You don't even have to know Photoshop or Illustrator, and then bring them to life in Character Animator. So let's take a look at some of the amazing work that's been done in Character, and then we'll talk more. Let's go ahead and roll that reel. I love seeing that reel. It's so great to see all the work that's been made in Character Animator, but there's a lot of work there that a lot of new work that's been made since that reel was made. And our first guest today is Konee Rok. Welcome, Konee. I got to know Konee because I happened to see an animated music video that he made, and I really liked it, so I reached out to him. He's a documentarian, he's a filmmaker, he's an animator, and he's known for some amazing work featuring artists like Rhymefest, Wu-Tang Clan, Kanye West, DJ Jazzy Jeff, A Tribe Called Quest, just to name a few. So we're going to be watching a reel that he made. It's about 3.5 minutes long. But while we're watching that reel, we're going to go ahead and talk. Konee's going to tell us about some of the things that we're watching in the reel. Let's go ahead and roll the reel.
The intro is something that's unreleased and probably shouldn't be shown. I won't say what this is, but you're going to see some projects, new and old, that is called Say What's Up. It's rock that's talented. Throwback to a lot of classic cartoons like Jackson 5. Here's an animation of the NBA Finals. Kawhi Leonard won that year. Sorry, Golden State. And let's see what's next. Oh yeah, this is intro to a television show called Hip Hop Connection. And that's MC Hustle and Biggie Smalls. There's a little Nas tribute, classic album. You know it if you know it. Janet, this is from the city. A little Adobe collaboration, DJ Active in the house. B-Boy Crumbs, this is intro to his documentary about him coming freestyle session just last year. Cody Chestnut video, a little behind the scenes, drawing some stuff. Had to do this video in 10 days. So slept on the floor next to my computer for this one. This is me directing Fife Dog for a video called Dear Dilla. Crowd shot, transition into animation. I love doing hybrid stuff. Rhinefest. Scram Jones. Little John Roberts. He's a Soul Child. Let's see what else we got here. Vasil Lemachenko, aka The Matrix. A little intro for him. A little effects with Fife. Jazzy Jeff. A couple different moments. Ryan Fist, one arm push up. He's the strongest man I know. Let's see what else. Avery Sunshine. Love working with her. A little shadow story. Common from the city. Walking with the Chicago Lions. Let's see what else we got. Oh, Avery Sunshine back again. It's one of my favorites. It's called I Got Sunshine. It's about her escaping into fantasy and the doldrums of her life. And, let's see. I always like this one. That's why it's on the reel. Kindred, the Family Soul. That position he's in, I drew that, and then I went upstairs and I found my daughter MJ sleeping the exact same way. I thought I was making it up, but it's real. Another one with Kindred and Jill Scott, about her remembering herself as the only child.
It was that Jill Scott video that made me reach out to you because I loved it so much.
I'll always be grateful for that. And Smokey Robinson tribute. They played this on stage last year, especially thanks to Eric Roberson for making that happen. And Raekwon, Wu-Tang Clan. This is a live action hybrid with animation, and had to do this like in a month, right when a baby was born. It was wild stuff, man. Major Lazer, special thanks to John Wayne for making this happen, and there's some work.
That's a great reel. It's really amazing, and it's like so cool to just see all these different things that you've done, because I think I've maybe only seen a few of those, and it's just a huge amount of work. But one of the things I know about you, Konee, is that you use Photoshop for drawing your animation. You're using the Photoshop timeline, and I wondered if you could just talk about that a little bit. You do a lot of hand drawn, but you also use cycle layers a lot too, I know. So yeah, how is it that you get a lot of that done?
Yeah, I used to draw stuff and scan it in, and then I was looking for different ways to be more direct and draw directly into the computer. And because the computer is efficient, that's the reason to use it, right? So I used to do drawings on their own in Photoshop, and then just discovered that, hey, you can do a timeline you can use in Photoshop. I started exploring that, figured out how to use it, and it was a particular video called Stolen I did with Rhinefest, and it's a mix of both animation and live action, and that's the one where because every time I do a new project, I always try to learn something new. I try to go in not knowing how to do something, and it forces you to learn. So that was an example of a time where that happened, and I was like, I'm going to learn this doing this, and I'm going to put myself against the wall. And it was tough. I made a lot of mistakes, but then I figured it out, and it was great, really great. And
it's so interesting. I think that's a theme with you, because I've heard you talk about this before, of like learning new software and then just like pushing yourself to learn new things, but also pushing the software. So tell me what that does for you. Like, why do that? Why not just stick to what you know?
So it's imagination first, right? And I always think of like, what is the greatest, whatever I'm imagining, I'm like, okay, that has to be what it is, right? Like that's what it should be because that's what I imagine without any limits, knowing there's limits. So then I'm like, one of my challenges that I give myself is I'll draw out a storyboard and I'll be like, this is the Bible. I have to execute according to this, right? And then just applying that to the real world and, how close can we get to that, right? So whatever it takes. And sometimes it takes learning something new. So it's fun, and you grow and you feel good about learning something. Sometimes you fail or you don't do everything you want, but you do your best, right?
Yeah. Are you using Photoshop too for your storyboards? Are you doing all that in Photoshop?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I'll like if I do it when it's warmer out and it's not snowing and freezing, I'll go outside somewhere and I'll actually sketch stuff just to get the ideas out, and then I'll either redraw them like later or I'll bring them in sometimes and use that. But a lot of times, yeah, I'll use Photoshop for storyboards, and I'll usually just open a project and I'll just go layer by layer and just because you're imagining it, so you want to be efficient of how you get it out so you don't lose it. And sometimes it's a vibe and you want to capture that. So the speed is important in the beginning, and definitely Photoshop, it helps a lot to use that.
Cool. Um, I know too from just watching you work that you also do a lot of prototyping. I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit, like how you prototype before, almost even before you're doing an animatic or anything like that.
Yeah, it's almost like a mumble, right? Sometimes like when people are writing music, a lot of times like they'll have an idea or a melody, but they don't know what the lyrics is, but they know they need substance somewhere in there. So they'll say, "Ah, blah, blah, blah," and then just to get to the next thing. It's kind of the same thing. Just need to get a little mumble out so you can get something, some type of substance there to structure it out, and then once you have that, then you make it beautiful later, or you add to it later. So
Cool.
that's how I use it.
I want to be sure to mention to everybody, Konee did this amazing video with DJ Active featuring Common, but he also, as part of that, made 5 free puppets that you can get to use in Character Animator. I would love to see anybody take all those 5 puppets and turn them into their own video. That'd be really cool. But he also more recently made some templates for Puppet Maker. And you can check those out. And Dave will be posting links in the chat to that. So you should definitely look into those and see what you think.
I love Dave.
Konee, yeah, we all love Dave, right? So for anybody who doesn't know who Dave Warner is and OK Samurai, he's going to post links to his YouTube channel. If you want to learn Character Animator, you want to know Dave Warner, aka OK Samurai. So check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So Konee, your work has that wonderful hand-drawn feel to it. A lot of it does. And we have another animator here today that's also done an amazing job using these tools to achieve that feeling of drawing. So thanks, Konee.
Thanks.
We're going to introduce now Seth Zeichner. And Seth is an independent filmmaker and animator. And he started out as a traditional cartoonist, but ultimately he landed a job working on Blue's Clues. And we have a special place in our heart for Blue's Clues because for those of us that worked on After Effects, it was one of the first shows that was using After Effects for character animation. And that was really exciting to us. But over the years, he's worked on a variety of other projects, including an award-winning independent animated film called The Realm Beyond Reason. And again, we're posting the link in the chat. You should definitely watch that. It's amazing. But he recently collaborated with Pat Moriarty on an animated music video for The Replacements' Shut Up. If you like punk rock, you're going to love this video. So Seth, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that before we show the video. We're gonna do like a director's cut when we see it.
Yeah, I've for me, I've always been fascinated with animation history, cartoon history, yeah, and one of the periods that always fascinated me was in the 20s and 30s when there were no trained animators, and animation studios were popping up and they were grabbing any cartoonist they could find and saying, "Yeah, you'll be an animator," right? And it's this kind of idea that anybody can be an animator, which these days it takes a little more training than that, but it's kind of a fascinating period. And so I've worked periodically through the years with other cartoonists, and getting them to do animation. And Pat's been a friend of mine for a long time. And the people at Rhino, or somebody knew Pat and wanted his style for this video, and so we took it on. We didn't have a lot of time, and it's a very short song. So what we decided to do was to try to do as much work as we could in 1:29, as opposed to just sort of slapping something together. So this video, we did it in less than 3 weeks, and Pat himself did almost 800 drawings, though it's kind of hard to tell. They go by so quickly. And the thing that I love about Character is that it made it really pretty easy for us to do a lot of stuff to keep it looking. We wanted it to look as traditional and rough and punk as possible, which was we didn't get a lot of direction from the company, but one of the things was they wanted it to kind of look like an old, like a student did it in their notebook, just kind of really rough and scratchy. And so we storyboarded it out, and I used Premiere to start, to take the audio in and strip out, create what's called an SRT file, which is essentially Premiere can tell the difference between the music and the vocal track, and strip it out and give me time code and the actual audio, what's being said. Although Paul kind of yells a little bit in here, and so Premiere didn't really get all the words correctly, but it didn't really matter because it gave me the timing, and I was able to go in and create timing charts for Pat, so that all Pat had to do was draw. He didn't really have to think too much. He did a lot of, he just had to hit certain marks with certain drawings to match the audio, and everything in between could be rough and crumbly and whatever he wanted.
And let's clarify for just a second, for those of you that don't know, it's a fairly new feature in Premiere to do speech to text, so you can transcribe your audio, and that's what Seth's talking about here. He just did a quick transcription of the audio and turned those into captions. The SRT file that he's referring to is an export. You're exporting captions as an SRT, and the time code comes with it. And then in Character, there's a new feature called transcript-based lip sync, where you marry the audio track with that transcript, and he can see the time code in Character, and you can even edit it. So even if Premiere didn't get that transcript just right, you can go in and change the words if you need to.
You can go in and change the words. And the other thing that I do is I'll go in, if I'm actually using it in Character to create lip sync, like sometimes if the guy says no, Premiere will just put in no, N-O. And so you can go in and add a bunch of O's, and then Character will see that and leave the mouth open for the correct amount of time that you want, right? Which is a really nice feature.
Hey, there is a question on the chat, and it's for both you and Konee. It could be for Jim as well. People are curious to know what tablet device you use for your drawing.
Go ahead, Seth.
I use a Cintiq, a Wacom Cintiq for my drawing. This thing that we did, Pat actually drew it all on paper. So we used the same pencils and just regular old bond paper that we punched. I have an animation punch, so we punched it old school. He drew it on the paper, we scanned it, and then ran it through that way. And that created a lot of work. I love my Cintiq, and I use it for all sorts of stuff.
What about you, Konee? What are you using?
Yeah, I use kind of the same exact answer. Paper scanned in sometimes, and then Wacom Cintiq. I use a 24 HD touch.
Cool.
I don't know.
So Seth, should we go ahead and roll the reel, and you can kind of talk us through what we're seeing?
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. So let's roll it.
It's very short, but you can see there's a lot of drawings in there. We tried to use the computer stuff as little as possible to keep it looking as organic as possible. And one of the things, like you'll see coming up here in some of this stuff, we created what are called moving holds, which would be basically 4 or 5 drawings of a still. These are all traditional right here. Coming up, you'll see some of the moving holds. and then what I did was applied lim-ik, like that one. We applied lim-ik to them so that they could move around, right? And a moving hold is essentially something that Disney created so that drawings didn't look so static, right? Like that one there and that one there. Those are just still drawings repeated four or five times, brought into character. You put lim-ik on them, and you can see the soundtrack, and you can bounce them around and make them move to the audio, but they still feel like they're hand drawn, right? And so then I used After Effects to composite all these together. So there's a ton of different layers and different parts. Pat didn't do everything all together. He did a lot of parts separately, backgrounds, different characters, different pieces. And so that all got composited in After Effects. And it was a pretty quick process for how many drawings involved.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing to hear both of you talk about like these really like fast turnarounds you had, only 3 weeks on this. And I know Konee mentioned something. What's that like did you feel pressure? Did you feel like, oh, no problem, I can get this done in 3 weeks?
Pressure is always a part of animation. I'm sure Konee will agree with that. There's never enough time, there's never enough money, and there's always somebody wants it sooner, wants things changed with no time left. But the nice thing about all this technology that is that it does allow you to try to be as traditional and fidelitous to the artwork as possible while going quicker. It used to be in animation, if you did 80 drawings like that, it would take you weeks before you'd see the shot come back. Right now, you see it almost instantaneously, right? And so there's less lag in your brain creatively while you're making things.
Yeah, that's cool. I know from talking to you and Pat in the past that one of the things you were inspired by was the Ramones music video that's animated.
Right.
I love that video too. And one of the things I love about the Shut Up video, I love the replacements, but it feels like the fans really loved it, and it feels like it was for the fans in many ways.
Pat's a huge fan of the replacements, and so he, it really was a project of love and respect for the band, so it worked out well.
That's so cool. So thanks for sharing that. We also have Jim Tews joining us. And in fact, he made a fan video. Jim is a comedian, he's a writer, he's an animator, and he's the creator of the New York Times bestseller, Felines of New York. He made his stand-up television debut on Last Comic Standing, and he's been on FX and NBC and TBS. And let's just take a look at Jim's reel, though, where he'll talk more and tell you what he's been up to recently.
Hi, my name is Jim Tews. I'm a comedian, I'm a writer, and an animator. And I got my start in animation using Character Animator to make a music video for the band Weezer. And basically, I'd been using Character Animator since early beta and really became obsessed with it. I made some scrappy little shorts for myself. I even tried to implement it in my live shows, and I really just loved playing with it. Then fast forward a few months, and the band Weezer is releasing a new album. And their lead singer, Rivers Cuomo, tweets out that he's looking for ideas for the new single. So I respond to the tweet, and I say, I have an idea, but I don't have an idea. And I didn't think he would respond. So he responded, and then I felt like I was on the hook to make this fan video for one of my favorite bands ever. I ditch all my personal responsibilities. I put probably a month and a half, 2 months of all the time I'm not doing stand-up into making this. I use Character Animator, Photoshop, Animate, After Effects, every skill that I have. I finish the video, and my managers get it to the band's managers. And they say, we like this, it's really good, we can't license it, but we'll put it on our social media. So they do that. I get a lot of great feedback. I keep going. I make shorts from my own stand-up. I do some stuff for friends. And then COVID happens and we all get trapped inside, which is great for animators. It's very bad for stand-up comics though. I lost a lot of work and then decided that I was just gonna lean into the animation stuff. I end up doing work for record labels, some other comedians, and even broadcast TV. like the Drew Barrymore show. I never set out to become a music video creator. I went to film school, but never thought I would be an animator. But here I am, thanks to Character Animator, Weezer, and the internet.
Such a fun video, Jim.
Thank you.
So there's always, weird pluses about the pandemic, and one of those, right, is that we get to see a lot more animation from you, and I'm really thrilled about that. And I think it's so cool how you started expanding what you were doing, and there's all these great kind of subtle things in your more recent animations. But when I go back and I think about the first one that I saw, which was that Weezer video, it's still super fun, partly because the song is so great, but it's just a fun video. But the first time I saw it, I was amazed because it had multiple characters. And sometimes that's really hard for new animators. So I wondered if you could talk about what that experience is like. Like you had the whole band in there.
Well, I think like what Konee was saying, like follow your imagination. It was like, this is how I pictured it. And luckily, like I didn't know enough to know how much I was getting myself into. But each step I got closer to what I wanted, it was like, well, it's too late to turn around now, So it was like, figure out how to add all these characters, figure out how to make it look like Pat's drumming, or and it's just kind of like picture it, try and figure out how to do it, and then the next time you do it, it'll be better. But yeah, I got way in over my head with that one, but I don't know how else to do things. So
it turned out beautiful.
Thank you.
But I know, these days you've added a lot more things. Like you've got some really nice head turns on some more recent animations. And you've also started using Blender just to get some depth. And so I just wonder if you could talk about, some of the things that you've learned and you've added to what you're doing with your animation.
Well, like I like to go back and look at what I didn't like about the last thing I did, and then actively try and improve it. And like head turns, also I've always been interested in animation, but I just didn't have the patience, to be honest. And I feel like now I'm a little older and I can sit for longer. And it was like, I wanted to learn about head turns and run cycles and like how all this stuff really worked. So I went back and practiced that. And then, with Blender, it was like, I've always been curious about 3D animation, and then we were just really trapped and I had nothing better to do. So there's a million tutorials online. So I learned a little bit about that to help bring to life whatever it was I was picturing. And then I'm just going to keep going and doing it like that until I can't.
I wanted to mention, we know that there may be a problem on the chat. YouTube may be filtering out links that we're adding. So just kind of be patient with us as we figure that out. We will try and make sure that all the links are there so you can watch things in full. If you're not seeing them right now, we'll get them there as soon as we can. I have a question for all of you now that you're all here. As I started trying to think about this show and research things about animated music videos, I just really started to wonder about my own, like, what are some of my favorites? And I was curious about what are some of your favorites? There's so many different styles to choose from. When I was thinking about it, I thought of some classics like Sledgehammer or Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz. Like, those are some favorites of mine. But what are some of your favorites, or what are some of the things that give you guys inspiration for what you're doing and kind of push you to go further? And I don't know if I should pick somebody to start, but I'm going to pick Konee.
I like Paul Abdul, Opposites Attract.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, I like the hybrid. I like how the dancer is Boogaloo Shrimp from Breaking, and they emulated his movements and used him as a model. So I really like that, incorporating dance and how they intermingled that. They did such a great job, especially when it was made. So it's my favorite.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about you, Seth? Do you have a favorite or something that inspires you?
First of all, there's so much stuff out there, and because I'm a little bit older, when I was growing up, the things that fascinated me were the old stuff, right? So, I mean, one of the first things that blew my mind was that the Fleischer Brothers Minnie the Moocher video, or the St. James Infirmary video, which was, I mean, that was really inspiring and out there for the time, right? I mean, really pretty avant-garde for the 30s.
Maybe people already know, but we should mention, I mean, the Fleischer Brothers invented rotoscoping, and that's part of what made those so cool. And then we saw that sort of come back again with the Aha video in the 80s. And, just beautiful work. And more recently, I mean, a lot of what Konee does is rotoscoped, or looks like rotoscoping too.
Yeah, they invented a lot of stuff, but I also love, the Merry Melodies, the Disney stuff. I mean, it was like right from the very beginning, animation was used. It was perfect for music, right? I mean, it was just, so I love all that early stuff. I do love the modern stuff. I love the gorillas. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. It's just, but the old stuff is my favorite.
Yeah. And Jim, what about you? What inspires you, or what ones do you like best?
Well, the one that always stuck out in my head the most was also the Opposites Attract video with MC Scat Cat, and also the Dire Straits video, Money for Nothing, which was like early 3D animation. And I always, for some reason, that aesthetic appeals to me in a weird way, where it's like where somebody goes like, we should use 3D, and they're like, well, it's gonna look like a bunch of cubes, and they go, I don't care, it's the newest thing, let's do it anyway. And then, like, now we've gone so far past that, but that's still, to me, I remember seeing that video and just being like, what is this? So, I like that weird, bad 3D aesthetic.
That's cool. So one more question before we go, though. If someone's just thinking about, starting animating, maybe they've always wanted to be an animator. I meet a lot of people that really want to animate something. They're just not sure how to get started. What advice would you guys have for them?
Konee.
Yeah, Konee, it looked like
go in order again.
Sure.
The best thing is to figure out where you want to start and where you want to end, and then everything else will kind of take care of itself. So animation is movement, right? So if you know where you're going, all you need to do is start from one place, figure out the end place, and then just fill it in. So I would say know those two things.
The thing I would say is you need to learn a little patience, because animation is a lot of work. It used to be really considered a team sport. And now you have smaller and smaller teams, but there's still a lot of work. And I think a lot of people look at all the technology we have and think, oh, now it's super easy, I can do it so quickly, but it's still really hard. And you still have to be willing to put in the time, even though it has gotten so much easier and so much faster. To make really good stuff, you have to put in the work. And so I think a little bit of patience with yourself, because it's hard. Nobody comes out of the gate as a great animator. Everyone has to work at it. So learning to draw, learning the software, it takes a lot of time. Give yourself a little space to learn.
And Jim, what about you?
Yeah, I'd say patience is a huge factor as well. And then storyboarding, like even if it's thumbnails, even if you're doing stuff that's like abstract shapes, have some plan in place and know you don't end up drawing more than you have to. But storyboarding is like the best place to start, and then work in small increments.
And by the way, what do you use for storyboarding?
I've used Photoshop quite a bit. I'm starting to learn Storyboard Pro because I was curious about it. But a lot of Photoshop or Fresco, whatever I can do to put something together and then lay it in a timeline. I'm not super picky. And to answer the question from before, I also use Cintiq and sometimes my iPad.
Cool.
Yeah, but both Jim and Seth are right in terms of like patience and storyboarding. You need that structure, because there's times where I've skipped I believe that, but there are times where I skipped that step and try to jump in because you want to be speedy, and it's really an illusion. It's not really faster. It's always better to have the structure first. So you need to have the discipline to create that, and then have that as your foundation for sure. It's very. I think that's everything for sure.
That's great. I can't even quite believe that our time has almost come to an end. And before I wrap up with a few things, is there anything you guys want to add? Anything you're thinking about as you saw each other's work and talking to each other? Is there anything else?
I think they're both great.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I enjoyed watching everybody's work.
Yeah,
appreciate meeting everyone and getting to know everyone, and thankful to be here. Thanks, Erica.
Yeah. There are so many amazing artists out there creating animated music videos using Character Animator. And I wish I could have had everyone on, but I want to do a quick shout out, and Dave will be posting some of these videos in the chat. But there's a beautiful video by Dave Waite from Zookeeper. There's another one from Jammy Jan, and Story Pirates has done a great music video, and Yin Strange. So those are just to name a few. If you've created a music video, we would love to see it. So post your link. It'd be great to check it out. A huge thank you to all of you, Konee, Seth, and Jim, for sharing your time with us. If anybody wants to learn more about how to use Character Animator, go to the OK Samurai YouTube channel. Did all of you learn some of what you're doing in Character from OK Samurai? Is that true? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And he has also created a music video. You can check that out there as well, and how he did it. There are also tons of free puppets that you can use to get started. So if you just want to play around with animation, check out some of the free puppets, or check out Puppet Maker and make your own. Join us next month for the next meetup on March 30th, where the topic is going to be audio. But I really hope you join us in May for the animation meetup, because we're going to have something new to show you, and you're not going to want to miss it. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, you guys, for being our guests, and we'll see everybody next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.